So today what I'm going to do is talk to you about nonfiction text structures. They're called listing or description, sequencing, compare and contrast, cause and effect, problem solution. The first part of this assignment is to set up your notebook. So you're going to want to take your notebook, and the directions are on your foldable. You're going to attach the foldable in your notebook sideways and write your answers on or under the flappable. And I'm going to show you an example in the next slide. So if you can see here, I've glued my foldable down. I've labeled it text structures at the top as my title. You can see that this says sequencing, and I'm going to write down the graphic organizer, then some of the signal words, and then these are the tips to help you figure out if it's sequencing. When you fold your paper up, on the top flap you're going to write down the sample text. For example, for this one it's a grocery list. And then underneath you're going to write the definition. We just recently learned about text features, and text features are the tools to navigate nonfiction text. These are the things that help us find what's important. Listing, sequence, compare, contrast, cause and effect, and sequencing are not text features, but they are text structure, and they tell us how a nonfiction text is organized. To help us figure out what the text structure is, the three tips are: number one, what is the purpose? What does the writer want the reader to know? Is it something that's similar or different? Are they trying to figure out what caused something to happen? Are they trying to look for main ideas? What are some of the transition words that are being used? And third tip is, if you were taking notes to study for a test, what would your essential information be? How would you remember this information? Listing is citing evidence about a main idea by describing, explaining, or giving unique characteristics or features. For example, if I asked you, what are the three things a person could do to play the violin? Or if I asked you, what are the denotative features of a cockroach? These would be examples of listing. When we're talking about signal words, we're looking for transition words. So you can see that I've provided 8 examples for you. Choose several of these examples to write on your graphic organizer. On the right, you can see that I have some graphic organizers that you can use. For example, you can put the main idea in the center. This would be like a wheel map, and on the spokes you would put your supporting details. Or you could list your main idea on a web in the center and put your main ideas on the side and then your supporting details as well. In the real world, grocery lists, rules, and travel brochures are all examples of sample text that you could use this text structure with. To ask yourself, is it listing? Is it stating a main idea and supporting details? Is it describing something? And is the text showing us as a main purpose those descriptive characteristics? Sequencing. This is also known as chronological order. This shows you the steps needed to complete a process. For example, if I asked you what was the last major event in the 100 Years' War, you would be looking at a timeline. Or if I asked you to explain how a mother should change a diaper, you would show me the process from beginning, middle, and end. So you can see here there are several different tools that can be used. For example, you could use a numbered list. You could use some type of sequence map. You could use a timeline. And here are 8 examples of transition words that you could use to figure out sequencing. So ask yourself, is it sequence? Is it showing steps in order to complete a task? Is it referring to dates, numbers, and events? And is it important that the time or order matters? And is it a logical order that is trying to be organized? Recipes, directions, narratives, instructional manuals are all examples of real-life text that use this type of text structure. Recipes are a little tricky because recipes list your ingredients, but the most important part of a recipe are the directions, the sequence. With compare and contrast, this is where you're going to point out your likenesses and your differences. For example, if I asked you to compare the PlayStation to the Xbox, or to compare and contrast a restaurant buffet and a school cafeteria. You can use a Venn diagram. You can use a T-chart. If you look up here, we have differences and similarities. I've given you 8 different examples of signal words that you can write down as well. One of the most popular ways to use compare and contrast would be your product reviews. So if you're trying to buy a product of some sort, it would be the compare and contrast. So ask yourself, is it helping you make a decision? And are you seeing 2 topics being discussed, compared, and contrasted? Cause and effect is one of the harder ones because it's very similar to problem solution. But cause and effect will explain the reason an event happens, which is the why, the cause, and its result, the effect, or the how. So what happens when someone steals? And if someone saves 10% of his paycheck, how will this benefit him? Cause and effect tools. You can see that it could be some type of T-chart where you're putting your causes on one side and your effects on the other side. It could be that you might list all the causes and then the effect of those causes, or maybe there's just one cause and several effects. Sample texts that use cause and effect would be research paper, public service announcements, persuasive arguments, troubleshooting guides. To ask yourself, is it cause and effect? Is it telling you the reason something happened and what happened because of that? If it does, it's cause and effect. If it's telling you a solution to the problem, then it's probably not cause and effect. And is the purpose of the text just so that you can be aware of the reason something happens and its consequences? Problem solution is also similar to cause and effect because you're going to have a dilemma and you're going to offer ways to resolve it. For example, every time I play my Singing Monsters, my phone keeps shutting off. What should I do? Global warming is destroying animal habitats. How can scientists help? Once again, we can use our T-chart where we're putting our problems and our solution. We can also use some type of web where we're brainstorming our problem and then talking about different solutions. And you can see there are a couple different transitions you can use. As a result is starred because even though this is a transition for problem solution, it also could be a transition word for cause and effect. So make sure that you know that you have to use all of your clues. Sample text could be speeches, ads, commercials, infomercials, troubleshooting guides, and campaigns. So ask yourself, is it problem solution? Is there an issue at hand? Or is there a suggested way to find a solution? And is it brainstorming and evaluating ideas? So you're now completed with this part of your assignment. The next step is to take the quiz about golden eagles and then take the quiz on Study Island. And the last thing you're going to do is complete the more difficult text structure and why. It's a question I'm going to be asking you. Good luck!